Give me enough volume, Frank. Well, it was really great. This is the Andy Alberti show. And if you're listening, it's either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or live on Thursday and Friday, maybe even a Saturday. Who knows? And today, uh, I really want to do something a little different. Well, maybe that's every week. And we had this morning at the breakfast meeting, we had some discussion about the language, the English language, and the question of woke came up. And I have to say that woke is a joke. If you're out there, I think if you're paying attention to the people who talk about woke, oh, I woke up this morning, yeah, I got that, but are you woke? Well, who the hell is the idiot that started that? Give me a name. I want names of everybody that, I want the name of the guy or the woman or whoever it was, the progressive, the dead person, I don't know who it was, but who started with the word woke. I think that's Spanish, spelled with a J. If it was Spanish, wouldn't it be pronounced woke, as in joke? I am really upset at listening to all this talk about being woke. You know what? I want to tell you where you could put your woke, and you won't see it until the next day after you've had a good meal. It got to the point where it was enough. So joke, yolk, and yolks are in eggs. I wonder if the eggs are woke. I can't imagine somebody knows the English language is that stupid to think that the word woke means something, whatever the hell they want it to mean. I mean, it blows me away. So today's show, I'm going to talk a little while about the English language and some of the words that are in there that have never existed before. And they're just coming out of the woodwork, man. I mean, they're destroying the country and they're changing the language. They're getting rid of the history. They're getting rid of all of the things that we admire in people, and they're woke. They are destroying your history, which means your country is going to go away. And if it goes away, that's your fault because you're letting them do it. Now, if you're an elected official, you ought to get some balls here. I don't want to hear from you that, oh, well, I won't get reelected if I don't do this. No, you're there to represent the quality and the history of this country, which is one of the best countries in the world. We have done things in the past no one else would do. And where are we today? You worry more about social engineering than you worry about surviving in the world economy. I've watched the Chinese drill into their families, into their students, that they have to go to school, they have to learn, they have to be educated. Math and science are important to them. And I can remember in the 80s. Now, in the 80s, I was into computers in the late 70s. Actually, I was in computers in the late 60s. But in the 70s, I got back in, I bought myself a home computer, and I was there. And I can remember that the Chinese were teaching their students in school about computer technology. And where were we? There were some people who saw the writing on the wall, but for the most part, elected officials who have careers wanted to maintain their career. And what did they do? They stuck it to us. It's about time you wake up, get woke, awaken. We have Republicans today who are elected. I used to be in the Republican Party, I'll admit it, for 57 years, and I worked my tail off. And I see today, I got smart 2 years ago, little over 2 years ago. And I got smart and I realized that these guys that are in politics, they have careers. And there's only one important thing about having a career, getting reelected. And let me tell you something. They run for office, and here's what you're going to hear. I will do what you want. I'm going to fight for you. You know what? When you send 435 people out of all the states, the 50 states to Washington, and you got one guy that's going to be fighting for you, he wants to get reelected. He don't give a damn about fighting for you. He'll come home and tell you he's fighting for you. Ask him how many days and how many hours a day a week he works. How often is he back home? Yeah, you got to be asking him these questions. Then you got to ask him, what did you really do to fight for me? You gave up the ship is what you did, and now we're in this mess with a guy who can't even string a full sentence together in Washington as the president. And all you can do is whine on television. I can see what the plan is. The plan is that you as Republicans or whatever other party is in office there, you're going to whine about it until the next election in 2022, and then you're going to hope to win. You know what? You need to do it now. You have all you want to do is keep your benefits, keep your position, keep your career. I don't really care about your career, my friends. If I watched Mark Amity say that he thought Trump should be impeached, that idiot. Now, I've used a few words here that maybe you don't like to hear. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit when it comes to today. I want to talk a little bit about the English language because we need to know what we're talking about. I'll give you an example. This morning at breakfast, one of the fellows was telling us about the corporate government. And as a corporation, they don't have the same requirements that a normal government would have, or something to that effect. So I've heard these buzzwords before, the corporate government entities. So I stopped and I asked everybody that was at breakfast, I said, if you understand what this is all about, being corporations and government, raise your hand. 2 people out of 18 raised their hands. And Mr. Producer in the studio wasn't there, but he just raised his hand. But that's the case. We use words, but we don't understand them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about words today. I like dictionaries. As a young married man, and even before, I went through Catholic high school. And you know what the nuns are like. If you're caught messing around in class, smoking in the laboratory, whatever it is, you got the knuckle sandwich right in your forehead. And it was okay. I mean, we never did it again. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about the language and what happened this morning, because it was obvious that even though the person telling us what they were telling us wasn't really, the people weren't getting the message because they didn't understand what he meant when he was talking about the corporation. So next week at breakfast, which is 7:30 a.m. at the museum, we're going to get a little history about the evolution of corporate government. And I think it's important that we pay attention to that because things are changing very rapidly these days. And I think language is important. There are some words you can't say in the English language these days, and maybe you don't care. But what happens one day when you use a word that's not allowed? How many people are losing their jobs these days because they said something that management didn't like that they said? Or not even the management. The woke jerks that the stupid people pay attention to, the woke people are offended. There's another word you may need to add to your language these days. Don't tell me as an elected official that you care so much about one person being offended or 10 people that you're going to write a new law. I don't want to hear it. You want to know why those guys went to the Capitol? Because you jerks that are elected have no guts. The Democrats have guts. There's a thing about respect. I respect the Democrat leaders because they have muscled the Republicans right out of office. They've muscled we, the population, into a corner where they are making us do everything they demand. Your freedoms are about to go away. And if you think not, get wise. All right, so let's have a little discussion about some of the words I used today. One of the words I used today, well, I didn't use this word, so maybe I should I'll start off with this word, and it's intelligent. What does the word intelligent mean to you? By the way, there is a phone number here if you want to call in and tell me I'm full of you know what. But the purpose of today's show is to determine what am I out of all these words I'm going to give you? Where do I fit in? And I don't know. Well, I know what I think I fit into, but I want to hear what you have to say. And if you don't say anything, I'll make the decision myself, which will be quite complimentary to me, I can assure you. So the first word I'd like to look at, which I didn't use in any of my opening statements, was the word intelligent. Now, what does it mean to be intelligent? I have several dictionaries. And when I say I have several dictionaries, they're not your run-of-the-mill pocket-sized dictionary. I have one dictionary, a Webster's, called the Webster's $80 4 3/4 inch thick giant dictionary with print so fine that it's lucky I can actually read it. I have to really put on my good reading glasses to see it. And in there they had and then I have two other dictionaries. One is the Webster Encyclopedic Dictionary, which is 3 3/4 inches thick. And the other is a Webster's Dictionary, which is 4 3/4 inches thick. So, and I tell you about these dictionaries because they're not the dictionary today. They are dictionaries 1964 and 1994. What's important, and I have some others, but they're bigger. So if I want to look up a word, it's usually in the dictionary, except for one. There was one dictionary I got, cost $80. And it is 5 1/4 inches thick. The first word I went to look up was monger. You know what? It wasn't in that dictionary. It was in the others, but it wasn't in there. So I don't know what to make of that. So you really need to have more than one dictionary if you want to look up words. And anyway, the word intelligent. I always tell people what's in my mind comes out my mouth as my mind perceives it. And if you're listening to it, your ears pick up what my mouth said, but your brain has to interpret what my words mean. And we're not always clear in our communications because of that. We have our own biases, our own things about what we've learned and what we know. And I gave you a couple of words earlier. Yoke. Y-O-L-K, that's an egg yolk. Yoke, Y-O-K-E, that's around the horse's neck. Joke, J-O-K-E, and we'll laugh about that one. And then there's woke, which is just stupid people pay attention to it. Yeah, I'm going to say it over and over again. And I'm going to get to what stupid means because we have to understand these words. So Intelligent, what does that mean? And this is not my interpretation. This is directly out of Webster. Webster became the authority of the English language. God rest his soul. Knowing and intelligent means knowing and being well informed and understanding or aware of things, whether they're concepts or whether they're objects or descriptions. But intelligence is the ability to know and be well informed and to understand. Let me give you an example. When you have a conversation with somebody and this fellow or woman says, you know, I was watching the commissioner meeting and they voted to give money to some organization I don't like. And so you, in your mind, think, well, I know who normally votes that way. It was probably that person or two. But you need to ask the question, well, how did they vote? Who made the motion? Who seconded the motion? Now, making and seconding a motion, in case you're intelligent, if you're intelligent and you are well informed, you know that when someone makes a motion, it doesn't necessarily mean they support the issue. According to Robert's rules, which is how meetings should be run, you cannot discuss an issue until there's a motion and a second on the question. You're not supposed to have a discussion and then make a motion. No, you make the motion and then you have the discussion. That's, if you're intelligent, you will now know this and you should remember it. And if you watch a commissioner meeting and find out they're having a discussion without a motion being made, technically they're violating Robert's rules. Who was Robert? Do you know? Well, I know who it was. But I'm not telling you. It's time you look it up. You have to understand how things work, because when you understand how things work, you can get things done. And I talked about stupidity and woke, but in reality, I think the woke people are very smart. They found out that if you were offended, a politician who's concerned about his career would pay attention to you. And the rest of you out there as elected officials discovered that you have no muscle against that, because you're fearful that you may not get reelected unless you pay attention to what they say, because they're threatening you with being offended. I am offended by the politicians who are offended. Now, what's another issue about being intelligent? One is to give information that you have to share with someone else. Now, you can give someone the information all you want, but if they have a different idea, they may not accept it, which is fine. Then they should give you some information back. That's how intelligent people deal with issues. But when an intelligent person tells you something and you don't challenge it, you just accept it, maybe there's something wrong with you and there's another category that we would put you in. But giving information is important to all of us. That's why we have meetings. That's why we have get-togethers. That's why we sit down over a meal, maybe lunch or breakfast, and have a discussion with the people with us. I mean, it's not just to go have breakfast. It's to get information, to learn, to share. And I learn from other people as they learn from me, because we all know different things. And I'm never afraid to say, I don't understand what you're telling me. And the person telling me is trying to communicate to me through my ears, from his mouth to my ears, and I'm not getting it. It's not the first time. But once I get it, now we've got a good conversation. Let me give you an example of that. In the 1960s, when I was a crew chief at Grumman, working in flight test, there was a test that people could take in the company if they wanted to go study computers. And I was always kind of techie anyway, but I was not an electronics whiz. I was a crew chief managing an aircraft, getting them sold to the Navy. But I took the test. There were 300 people took the test. And I was one of them out of one of 12 that they picked to go to computer school. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, the company paid me to go to computer school. The days when you used to watch old science fiction shows and they would have this big console with all these lights flashing and stuff, well, I was in there. And I got to tell you what happened during that. Now, you got to realize I'm one of 12 out of 300 in that class. And I got to tell you, I struggled. For a month and a half, it was a 3-month program. For a month and a half, I struggled. I could not understand what they were teaching me. I don't know why. I would go home at night and I would open up the schematic and look at it, and I just wasn't getting it. Something was missing. And one day, about a month and a half into it, the instructor is at the blackboard, and he starts to show us how a register works. All of a sudden, this was my aha moment. He all this time he'd been conveying to me information that I wasn't getting. It was coming in, but I wasn't getting it. And then all of a sudden, it was like the waters parted in the Red Sea and Moses crossed. It was like that. It was like the clouds in the sky parted. That was what it felt like in my brain. It was like the skies parted. And suddenly I knew what he was going to tell me. And from being number 12 out of 12 in the class, I went to number 1 for the rest of the session. And I graduated as number 1 in the class. But you know what? He was conveying to me, and God, I struggled with it, but I think there was a point, that aha moment was when that last synapse in my brain made a connection and everything worked. Theoretically, I could have taught the rest of the sessions. I just had it. They didn't have to tell me anything. I understood AND gates and OR gates and NOR gates and registers, all flip-flops, everything. That's what happens when you give information. We share, we understand, we help each other. You don't have to be smart, but people that are intelligent are considered to be smart. I'm not going to tell you I'm considered to be smart. I consider myself to be intelligent. I'm not shrewd. Some people, intelligence also comes with shrewdness. And these are all the words that came out of this one dictionary. And if you're shrewd, you look at your surroundings and you analyze what's going on. And somewhere in your brain, you have an ability to analyze what to do that nobody else did. And you win. Or you get your ass kicked. But you came up with a plan. Now, there's another thing that goes into being intelligent, and it's called acumen. And if you're an English teacher and you hear this, it's a way of understanding. That's how I look at it. And you're clever. You have a capability to be witty. People that are funny, comedians, they have an aptitude that they learn, they develop it. They have an aptitude to look at certain situations in life and analyze how they work and put them into a format that will make you laugh. Now, why do you laugh? Because they have figured out what makes you uncomfortable. And it's funny. And you didn't expect it. It was unexpected. We have some people at breakfast that will tell a joke. And we have some people that really know how to tell a joke. But I give everybody an aptitude for trying. And you know what? If we learn from the good joke tellers, we become better joke tellers, and then increases our intelligence because you have to understand the essence of funny stuff. Maybe one of these days we'll do some jokes on the air, but not today. And the last thing about intelligence is that it's very intense. I have people that get annoyed with me, and I don't care. I really don't. But I get people that get annoyed with me because they'll tell me something and I'll ask a question. What does that mean? Describe it to me. How does that work? And maybe they're not really sure about how things work. Maybe they're just repeating what everybody else said. Talk about a disease. If you have diabetes, they call about your AC, what is AC1 or whatever the hell it is. I have no clue what that is. I have people throwing that around, telling me about their diabetes and how their numbers have gone from 13 to 7. What the hell? I don't know. I should go read up on it, or they should be able to explain to me what that number represents. I would be better informed, and it would make me more intelligent, more knowledgeable, let's say. Might not be any smarter, but I'd be more knowledgeable. So that's the basis of intelligence as I see it. Now I'm not saying there aren't other things that play into intelligence, because you have to have certain aptitudes, and you have to have certain interests and things of that sort. But in the meantime, think about it. You may be a very intelligent person, and you talk with a certain drawl, and you may not sound like Hillary Clinton, but could be. See, that it doesn't sound smart, but that person may want to have one hell of a brain inside them. They just learn to talk different. You listen to a southern drawl like that, and it's kind of a slow talk, a relaxed way of speaking, if you will. But talk to somebody from New York. Somebody from New York that talks so damn fast you can hardly keep up with them. Like that. The way New Yorkers talk and the way somebody from the South talks or somebody from the Midwest, we all talk a little different. And we get impressions in our brain from where we grew up as to how people spoke. And it's not accurate. So I'm coming to a point here where I want to go on to the next type of individual. And there was a time, sometime back, a couple of years back, where the state of Nevada wanted to remove the word idiot from all of their documentation. Now, I don't know. I think there are some people out there that are idiots. There are actually 3 levels of idiot, believe it or not. There's idiot. Then there is a moron. And then there's the imbecile. Now, I never thought about this before. I always thought they all meant the same thing. And maybe you have also. But they're not all the same thing. And I'm going to talk about, when we come back from the break here, the difference between an idiot, a moron, and an imbecile. What I really want to find out is, what category do I fall in when it comes to different types of personalities? And so we're going to take a short break here. I don't know how much time Mr. Producer is going to give me on the break, but it's about 1 minute to go. And when I come back, let me tell you the phone number here, in case you want to classify my category, is 775-990-4900. And if you want to email me, you can email me at andy@andyalberti.com. And with that, I'm going on break. Well, okay, so we're back here, and I want to talk about idiots because uh, there are idiots out there. They vote. They want to have everybody vote, even the idiots, even the morons and imbeciles. Everybody should have the right to vote. I've heard that so often it makes me sick. I want people to vote who are intelligent, who understand the issues, and I want the issues to be truthful. You know, we've got intelligent people in Washington. I'm not going to include Joe Biden. Joe Biden at one time was pretty intelligent, but these days the guy's lost it. Too bad. I'm sorry. But the fact that the Democrats voted for him and put him into office, and some of the Republicans didn't want Trump, I put all those people in the category of mentally deficient. Either that or very self-serving. They want to change the country. They want this to be something different than it is. They want to destroy all of the good things that have happened in this country, even while bad things were happening. You know, that's a very sad thing that the intelligentsia are letting the idiots, morons, and imbeciles run the country. And I'm offended by that. I'm offended by the intelligent people allowing it to happen. You know what? They're afraid they're going to offend somebody, but they're offended by being offensive. I, I just don't know where to go with that. How can smart, intelligent people not realize what's being done to them? Let's take a look at what an idiot is. I think we really need to know. So I went back to my three dictionaries to look up what they have to say about idiot. Because if I'm going to tell you what an idiot is, what's in my head, then I have to say it so that you can receive it and put it back in your brain. Because once it goes in there, it stays there forever. You may not like it, but it's there forever. Oh, yeah. That's why we have conversations. What is an idiot? Well, first off, an idiot is somebody who can't be mentioned in Nevada law. Now, I don't know about other words like moron and imbecile, but I think they're still around. But idiot is probably not. Now, an idiot is termed, according to Webster's dictionary, as a mentally deficient person with an IQ of less than 25. Less than 25. That's mentally inferior to a person that's 2 years old. My heart goes out to that person who has that problem and to their family because it's not easy. And I don't want to make slight or fun or anything about that situation. But when I see people that are supposed to be intelligent acting like idiots, I want to call them out. Sure, they have their own agenda. They've got their cleverness, their shrewdness at work. And they think I'm an idiot because I let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. It's time for the fight. Remember Trump said he would fight for you? Yeah, but all the other Democrats were fighting for everything. They could fight, but he couldn't. What the hell's wrong with you? What are you listening to? What do you believe? You didn't like what Trump had to say? He had to say it because it was true. There was a snake pit in Washington and we all knew it. Nobody wanted to say it. And Trump had the audacity, the shrewdness, the determination to tell us it was a swamp. These people you've been electing have not had your best interest in heart. You don't get to be a millionaire. You get to be a millionaire going to Washington. As a matter of fact, you might have a lot more millions than we can see. They may be in Swiss bank accounts. They may be in the Cayman Islands. You don't know. It supposedly is hidden, except that the IRS has made a run against the Swiss banks and against the Cayman Islands banks, and they have found people, and they've been paying the price. But you know what? They're not broke. Just had to pay their taxes and penalties. And then they negotiate them down so it's not such a penalty. Wells Fargo, what shrewd operators at Wells Fargo to con people into having accounts that they didn't want, didn't even ask for. You got an account you didn't ask for. What a wonderful thing that was. It's like Christmas. Somebody was mentally inferior at that point. I don't know if they were inferior to a person 2 years old, according to Webster, but they were inferior. And then when they found out they had them, they kept them an account at Wells Fargo. That's a big bank. And they apologized. And out of their billions of dollars that they have, they paid a small $1 billion fine. To the people? No. The money was paid to government. I'm going to talk about that if I have time late in the show. Not about Wells Fargo's money, but about what the state has done. So, okay, so now there's a classification that you are below the intelligence level of a 2-year-old. Now, that's not to say 2 years olds are not intelligent. They damn well are. They're learning at a pace that's unbelievable. They don't know very much when they get born, and they're into a surrounding where they have to identify things and taste and smell and move your arms and legs and figure out how to get your hand up to your mouth so you're not putting food in your eyeballs. All these things, these babies are just so smart. But at 2 years old, they don't have the smarts of an adult. The next level is the imbecile. So when you're talking to someone, I want you to think about this. When you're talking to someone, you have to decide what level of intelligence you're dealing with. And the imbecile's IQ is rated between 25 and 50. And that's kind of the equivalent to a child of 3 to 8 years. But here's the dilemma. They didn't say that the moron, the idiot was 25 or less. The imbecile is 25 to 50. Now, with that definition, when you see somebody that you think has an IQ of 25, it's up to you to decide how to categorize them. Do they become the idiot or the imbecile? Believe me, I've had conversations over the phone with people that I've had to kind of figure out what I was really dealing with. And I'm sure you've had the same thing. As an example, let me give you an example. The Department of Motor Vehicles. If you want to go down and get a driver's license these days, maybe they don't really want you in the office. You're just an annoyance. Of course, the bank wants you in the office. They put up a plastic barrier. You can go in there. You can do a transaction. You wear your mask. Great. But if you're talking to the Department of Motor Vehicles, God knows what they're doing. But you got to go stand in line on a Monday morning, and they're showing up at 4 a.m. to wait so they can get an appointment to go back another time to go into the DMV and hope the hell they solve their problem. Now, I don't know whether that classifies as an idiot, as an imbecile, or as a moron. But this boy isn't doing it. I'm not doing that, because that, to me, is terrible. That government employees running the show, private businesses, have taken steps so they can stay alive in business. But government doesn't have to worry about being alive in business because they are the government. All they got to do is take your money and do what the hell they damn well please with it, and you better like it. So you better be ready to go stand out there at 4 a.m. and wait to get in the door at 8 o'clock so you can get an appointment to see somebody at the DMV. And I don't fault the employees for that. That's coming from higher up. And yet the employees, I don't know, probably unionized, I guess, they don't have any choice. If they complain, they'll probably lose their job. So the imbeciles, I know for sure, will be there. And maybe not. Maybe the imbeciles are smart enough to realize that they're being taken for a ride. This is the DMV. They're probably being taken for a ride. Or it could be that they're a little smarter than the imbecile level, 25 to 50 rating. Maybe they're morons from 50 to 70. Morons are rated between 50 and 75. And here again is the dilemma. What if you're at 50? What if you classify? I want to classify everybody at 50 and see where that goes. And that's a child between 8 and 12. After that, you're home free. You're intelligent. I don't really think so. But, and you know, some people have emotional issues and they can't deal with, even though they're really intelligent, they can't deal with some of the things because of their emotional issues. And I will respect that. Now, there is a fourth group that I didn't mention anywhere in the beginning of the show, and that's the undecided. You know, in politics, in voting, you have the conservatives who think the Republicans who claim they are conservatives, and those that aren't are Republican, but we call them rhinos, Republican in name only. And then there are the Democrats. There are the Democrats who think they're progressive or liberal or dinos, Democrats in name only. And then there's Greenpeace. I don't know where they stand. Well, I know what they want. They want to have a clean planet. I'm okay with that. But where do they stand? Are they decided or undecided? And then there's the last group of people that are undecided. That's my fourth category. They don't know what they are. They're undecided. And because they're undecided, here's the Webster's definition. Irresolute, they're unsettled, they haven't come to a decision. In other words, in their brain, they haven't decided what they are. I think that's part of it. And in some cases, the undecided can undecide a decision they made. So, and they can undecide and reverse a decision. That becomes indecision. And maybe we've all experienced a little bit of that. But when it comes to registration in politics, if you're undecided, you know why some people become undecided in politics? Now, and this is a question of communicating to the masses. If you have certain beliefs in your brain that you think that when you work hard, you should reap the rewards if you do things properly. You follow the laws, you work your tail off, you have good employees, you have a great product, it's priced right, etc. But if you're on the other side of the coin, where you think that all the things that go to government should come to you for free because you don't have to earn them, who's the smart one? Who's the intelligent one? Is it the person that wants all the freebies from government that they don't have to earn? They get them just because they're alive? Or is it the person who, on the other side of the coin, works his ass off, pays his taxes, her taxes, and then wonders why at the end of it all, they got nothing? You know, when you pay your tax man, you ever try dealing with somebody who collects taxes? Is it no wonder so many people hate the tax man? You think maybe some of those people are dealing with an IQ of about, I don't know, 25 or 50. They've been told what to do. They got the play sheet in front of you. When I worked in real estate in California in this one office, one of the agents was an auditor. And I remember one day this guy saying it was about 2 in the afternoon, and he commented, "Well, I have to go now. I have an audit to do this evening, and I have to prepare for it." And I thought to myself, wait a minute, he has to prepare for the audit? What does that mean? Well, what it meant was he was going after somebody's money. And guess whose money was the easiest to get? The little guy. The guy scared to death of the IRS. No, I don't. The IRS has its job to do, and some people skate around the rules. But look at the size of penalties, not only at the banks, but at the IRS. I can tell you, like, there's a Visa card, and I forgot to make a payment of $15. You know what the penalty was? $39. And they want to go after these, what they call loan sharking places, where you go in and you borrow money and they charge what appears to be an exorbitant rate. But your late fee when you pay, let's say your mortgage is late, your late fee penalty may be $100, $200. You can go borrow money for 3 or 4 days, effectively peanuts, compared to what the late fee is going to be at the bank. Pay the bank off so you're not late and reduce your overall cost. This is the intelligent people know what's going on. But the people who don't realize how to work the system, they are a problem. Now, there was another definition of foolish that I want to get into before the show ends. And this came from Webster's Encyclopedia, my dictionary that's 3 3/4 inches thick. And by the way, the pages are kind of like they are in the Bible. You know, like the Gideon Bible, it's like tissue thin. That's what the pages are like in these things. So their definition of idiot was foolish or senseless person, a private person lacking a skill. And in there, at the end of about a short paragraph, they had something in there that really struck me. And I'm a veteran. I did what I wanted to do in the military because I felt I owed it to my country, to the very thing I was born into that I love, this country, the best place in the world to live. Depending on what you want, I guess, but for me. And in this definition, in this 3 3/4 inch dictionary, one of the definitions of idiot was professional soldier. And it was on page 951 of this dictionary. So when you look at the word idiot, and it was on page 951, there was a long ways to go before you got to the end of the words. That really bothered me when I saw that. I don't consider soldiers idiots. I think they're patriots who love the country they live in. With all its faults, it's still better than many other places you could live. And then the other judgment was on moron, same dictionary. Their definition was stupid and lacking in judgment. Bad judgment doesn't make you a moron, but maybe being a moron makes you have bad judgment. So that's your choice. What do you want to be called? And then feeble-minded was the last one in that definition. Then there was the word imbecile in this dictionary, a form of mental retardation, sometimes called a dunce, a blockhead, and a dolt. Now it's in your head. Try and get it out. The next time you see somebody that you think is an idiot, you're going to have to scale them up as to whether they're an idiot, a moron, or an imbecile. They're not necessarily in that. Well, maybe they're so intelligent. You know, there were some really intelligent people that when you meet them, you don't realize how intelligent they are because they don't want to disclose everything to you when you first have a discussion. But after you get into it, you realize, my God, that's a very smart individual. I love it when I do that. And there's a fellow that I really love. This man, I really love this guy, Ron Wayne. He lives here in Toronto, and he was one of the three founders of Apple Computer who got out early in the game. We all have issues that come up, and we don't know what the right decisions are. But Ron is a very progressive, liberal personality. And I'm a very conservative, everybody should do their own thing. And as a conservative, I'm more than happy to help somebody as long as they don't keep coming back to me for more help. As long as they take the advice and the guidance, I'm glad to help out where I can. So anyway, Ron and I we would get together after I sold him his house when he moved here. And we would get together, and he had a buddy living with him who had been 9 years in the seminary in Florida. And we would get together and we would talk politics, me the conservative, him the progressive, and his friend the religious guy, and my wife, who was also on the religious side. And we would have wine and cheese and we'd talk, and we never got angry with each other. We had discussion. And you know something? Sometimes I actually learned something that I didn't know before. And I'm sure they did as well, because we had different opinions and different life experiences that we shared. And the one thing I really got that has stuck with me, and I've talked about it so often, was Leviticus 25. Now, I'm not a Bible thumper. I've read the whole Bible in the last year and a half. Every day I'd read a little more. And I didn't do it intentionally. When I had some free time, I just opened up the book to where it was. I came up with a special type of bookmark to keep me exactly where I was on a page when I had to put the book down. And my bookmark was strictly to be used in a Bible setting. And so at the end of the year and a half, I finished reading the whole book. But I've been watching Ancient Aliens. Now, when I read the Bible, I didn't think like these guys from Ancient Alien stories, the shows. Now I've gone back and have been re-looking at what's been written and all the things that are being discovered on the planet that have been buried in the dirt. And we haven't found it all yet. And the other odd things that have happened. Even me, I've had my odd thing happen. Missing time experience where time was missing for 2.5 hours. An out-of-body experience where I wound up someplace else, and it was documented that I was there because I knew, I actually saw what happened. Anyway, it was fun having those conversations with Ron and his friend and my wife. I would go to his house, he would come to our house, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And it got to a point where somehow we got out of doing that, maybe because I got more active into the political arena and more active with other business I had. But it was fun, and we do need to learn from each other. Now, the career. A career, according to what I got out of Webster's dictionary, as opposed to what's in my own head, was one's life work requiring special training. And now, so you go to school. Like I went to school to learn computers, and it should have been my life's work. But there were certain circumstances that made me go out to look to make more money and get into a different profession. But they used as an example lawyers. Lawyers have a career. And there are some professions, and they mentioned several professions in this description, that a career is some profession or an undertaking that someone takes that becomes sort of like their life's work. But in all the explanations in the dictionaries I looked at, they never mentioned careers in politics. I think that's kind of strange. So we as the intelligentsia, oh God, I just put myself in that class. uh, we should be questioning whether politicians should have careers. I personally think that they should not. I think when you are in a position of politics, I mean, you watch these guys in politics, and even when they talk about it on the TV show, they go back and they show videos of things they said 10 or 15 years ago, and today they're the exact opposite. They were in favor of slavery. Today they're against slavery. But slavery exists in the world. It always has. It exists in other countries today. I mean, they fight it, but it's there. And I always wondered, they blame us for slavery, but who put the slaves up to sell to us? Not to me. I wasn't here at the time. If you had slaves in Africa, who it was the Africans who took their own people and sold them as slaves. Why don't we talk to the Africans about reparation? It started there. I'm smart enough to recognize that, but the people in government and the woke people keep telling us it's our fault. They want reparations. But what about the blacks? There were black slave owners in this country. You never heard that until recently. How can it be that there were black slave owners at a time when we don't want slaves? I have empathy. You know, when you're in the military, you're like a slave. The military tells you everything you have to do. When you get up, when you go to sleep, when you go to eat. Shit. Even for Frank Maurizio, God bless and rest his soul. And he was in the military. Yeah, these are words, and these are in dictionaries. And I got to tell you, I love dictionaries. And I get an education every time I open one up and look at a word. And it kind of makes me a little smarter. And I want to share that with everybody I know. Some don't care. I do. Next week, we'll come back. We'll talk a little more about what the state of Nevada has done to us as idiots and them as the intelligentsia. And they think we haven't noticed, but we have, and we're going to talk about it on this show. So with that, I'm going to conclude and tell you that I've had a lot of fun with the dictionary here on the radio today. And if you have any thoughts on it, you can email me at andy@andyalberti.com and tell me which of these categories you think I fit into. With that, I'm out of here.